we're back. Is it time to start our end of the year final Midwich Live for the year?
I think it does look like it's going to be the last one, doesn't it? So it's time. We're throwing people as well because today's not Friday. Which I've just realized my little script that I do at the beginning actually starts. Welcome to your favorite Friday AV talk show. So welcome to your favorite Tuesday, last day of the month AV talk show. As usual, everyone, we are streaming around the world via Midwich's YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, and Twitch socials. Please ask us questions, comment throughout via the chat function, and we'll try to read those comments out from whichever platform you're joining us on, as we will see them. And if you don't get to watch today's show in full, do not worry. You can watch it back via Midwich's YouTube channel. Just search the Midwich Group. Don't forget to subscribe, pretty please, and the show will also be available in podcast format too. We've been pretty busy actually since the last show that we did like this. Yeah. So I think probably one of the first things to note, if we go chronologically, was our event on the 4th, our kind of renamed AV Tweeps event, where we took advantage of Chris and Tim being in the country, and we had some wonderful guests join us for a great seminar from Chris and Tim on personal branding, where we learned a lot and a really good networking event. I think producer Ben has a wrap-up video of that. Should we have a little look at the highlights?
Let's take a look at the tape. Yeah, that was a fun event.
That was a really fun event. And I think we've already sort of started to come up with some really cool plans, maybe for a similar event next year, maybe a live and in-person AV in the AM. We could see if Tim was up for AV week, but make it AV year in person. So we've got loads of ideas to get back together, similar time, take advantage of the AV Awards and everyone coming together next year.
I want to start off by saying welcome to the people that are in the chat. My buddy Andre over in Jamaica is here today, anticipating a good conversation of hardware as a service or technology as a service. Thank you, Andre, for joining us. And Joe Dunbar's on as well, who is a fan favorite of ours from Starin as well. And if it has joined as well, thank you. If it was featured in the video, if you did not see that, we had to get special permission from our agent to be allowed to show her in the video. But yes, she was at the event and helped take the event to another level. Because if we're going to talk about social media, we're going to talk about social platforms, taking it up to another level by tweeting and proving a point. You helped us prove a point by making a lot of noise, and that night we did make a lot of noise. So thank you very much for everybody who joined us that night at Innovation House. It was fun. It was interesting. And one thing to remember is that Innovation House, yes, it is a Midwich's Innovation House, but more importantly, it's your house, right? So it's a place that you guys can have, you can use. This is not just a demo center, it's an experience center, but do not be shy to ask for use, right? If you want to bring your customers, if you want to hold a meeting there, maybe something that you want to have the ability to show the technology and to hold a meeting as well. We have all those facilities in place, so please get in touch with the Midwich team. Your Midwich rep will be able to assist you with that. So do not sleep on that opportunity. It's a fun place. It's a good place. It has a lot of cool technology. So please take advantage of this benefit that's out there for you guys. So anyway.
Absolutely. And speaking of Midwich benefits, Chris and I got to experience one, and that is that we are sister companies of the wonderful Holden Limited, who somehow pulled together this amazing live stood up broadcast from the AV Awards, our sort of red carpet experience. There's a few images of us there. So we had this great set that was provided by AV Magazine, and then our colleagues from Holden Limited came along, and gosh, was it professional. And I think it made me even more nervous, actually. I don't know about you, Chris, but looking at all that kit and how professional it was going to be, the pressure was on.
Yeah, I did not expect that. I was totally expecting walking up into a place where they were going to have maybe a little like a pull-up thing that said Midwich Live and hand us 2 microphones and said, go ahead, make do of it. And we would have to make the best out of the situation. But to walk into a place where we had all this great technology, a stage with lights, I mean, it stood out. You could not miss that there was a red carpet, pre-show happening in the space, because actually we were inside, not necessarily where everybody was entering, but they moved us inside to where the bar area was. So there was a lot of drinks to be had, a lot of lookers. People were over there, onlookers, watching us and what was going on. A lot of curious people going, asking and wondering if they were going to be on stage, which was great because I wish I could have had everybody on stage. There was a lot of great people at the AV Awards. Thank you so much, AV Mag, for giving us the opportunity to host the first ever red carpet show. It was something that I know from my experience working with AV Mag, it's been talked about but never done, and the Holden team pulled it off. So thank you so much. It was definitely an experience, a lot of work for the people that were involved, and I appreciate everything that Sebastian and Chris did to make that happen, and obviously our whole production team with producer Ben and producer Rachel in the background as well, who doesn't like to be mentioned in the production notes, but we're going to thank Rachel as well. We also have Nicholas. Thank you so much, Nicholas, for your cool animations that you provided for the video. Do not want to sleep on that as well. So thank you so much. When Ben showed us the video, it was super, super cool. I did not expect to see such a cool wrap-up video for the Innovation House event or what we saw at the AV Awards. So thanks.
Agreed. So today we are going to be talking about hardware as a service. And we've got a special guest to come and join us later to drill into that. I think I would also like to highlight something that has gone live, I think this week. So on the main Midwich Limited website, midwich.com, if you scroll to the bottom of the homepage, you'll find an article about our Agile Working campaign, which is really about working from anywhere, but with a real specific focus on working from home, as many of us are now doing for part of the week, if not all of the week moving forward. And if you have a little sort of scroll through that article, you'll find a link to the Agile Working Configurator. And this is a great tool. And what it will allow you to do is pull together or show some examples of different job roles and the sorts of work from home product that we would suggest them using. So, for example, if you are an essential worker and you mostly just talk internally to other members of staff, one of the biggest things for you is going to be having the confidence to have your camera on, having a system at home that replicates as close as possible your working situation in the office for when you are there. Good audio or headsets, noise cancelling if possible, if you have got distractions around you. Lots of things to consider to really get that confidence going, to keep that camera on and keep that rapport with your teammates. Climb up the scale and if you do a role like myself or Chris, We strongly believe that every time we jump on a video call, whatever it's about, it's a potential sales opportunity. As you can see, we make sure we have product on show, and we try and really use what we sell or what we're advising people to use themselves in our work. So if you find that configurator, you'll also find that our suggested kit lists are priced monthly. So what we've done is come up with these guideline packages, and you can come and work with Midwich anywhere in the world and say, this is what I'm looking for. And that could then be a bespoke package. But the price that this configurator will kick out will be a monthly cost. It is a rental service, shall we say, with all sorts of extras wrapped in, which is what we're going to talk to our colleague Jon Dew-Stanley about in a moment. So as a service, now I think, Chris, that this sort of started more in our industry, in the sort of telecom space, also in the IT space. But I think initially when you were as a servicing your IT, or from your managed service provider, quite often the hardware involved was back end switches, maybe. So less so product that people saw in front of them. With telecoms, I think that has been a bit different. We've been quite used to having the option of where you pay your line rent or you pay your subscription for your phone service. You then will also be able to rent the handsets that you use. So that's something that's been around for a long time, but it's pretty new still to AV.
Yeah.
And Chris, you're probably in a good position to talk about this, because the first conversations that the group ever had about hardware as a service were driven by Starin and Zoom. What do you think the draw was to be able to offer this?
Well, so hardware as a service is an interesting concept because of everything else that's around us, right? We live in an as a service, I guess, world now. I mean, if you were to say this maybe 10 years ago, it would be hard to explain to folks what an as a service was. But if you have Spotify, if you have a Netflix, if you've been in an Uber, right? These are services essentially at the core of it, right? Even when Netflix was just delivering DVDs prior to delivering it over IP, it was a service, right? You didn't have to necessarily own or purchase something. You were now in a monthly reoccurring cost to get this stuff. It was eventually going to hit our industry, right? Our industry is very tumultuous. What's hot today is not tomorrow. And a lot of the stuff that we have can come and can last a long time, but it always gets to that weird point. And I think that a lot of the push for an as a service came from big corporations that were investing heavily in technology. And unfortunately, the people in the technology industry way above our heads, the ones that were deciding that 4K was going to come and that HD was going to come. I think that all pushed technology out into a different stratosphere, because now people that bought at the end of the digital sunset now, or the analog sunset, were looking for digital, but they still had these TVs or displays sitting there that were still on that depreciation list, and they couldn't move that. So it's really a revolution in thought process for our technology to get into this space. First of all, we have to come to we come to have that moment where they realize that our technology ages in a very different manner than other people, right? And we have to admit that. Okay, fine. A TV can go 10. The same TV I grew up with is a TV I grew up with. It's not the case here. I think I've been through about 3 or 4 TVs since I moved into this one house. So I'm not trying to downplay the technology. I'm just saying that the technology is moving so fast. Internet has allowed us, and the big, I guess, push behind this has been home internet has changed, right? We have gone from okay dial-up to ultra-fast high speed in many places, and not every location has the super high speed stuff, but it's really driven by that. And if you have the internet speeds at that coming into your house on fiber and stuff like that, then you can have the digital movie systems and you can work from home and see videos and allow us to do podcasts remotely with high quality. So I think that it was going to happen, but the pandemic pushed it forward and made it more impactful. And I think hardware as a service makes a lot of sense, especially as people are trying to figure out what the state of the return to office goes. I mean, I know internally we've had different discussions about what rooms are going to look like and what rooms are not going to look like. And for a lot of folks, an as a service provider is the right choice because it is not going to be in that room. It may have to move to someplace else,
Mm.
and you don't have that, infrastructure costs or the long-term commitment to something that maybe you don't even know what that long-term commitment is. So it makes a lot of sense this day and age.
Yeah. And I think the thing is as well, maybe the reason that we've lagged behind a little bit as an industry is that for a long time, software related to AV products, you paid a single upfront cost for it.
Mhm.
And maybe then you'd pay a yearly sort of almost warranty style subscription to get some updates and so on. And that drastically changed because of the likes of Zoom and Teams and
Mhm.
these soft codecs and soft phone platforms that we now pay for monthly. So why wouldn't you pay for the hardware monthly and lump it all in together? I mean, there are, added benefits. I think, yes, it's nice to know that you're going to get shiny new technology at the end of the contract. But more importantly, the software that we're running on these products is changing. It's so fluid. And, at such a rate of acceleration in terms of added features that it's difficult for the hardware to keep up. So knowing that you're making a buying decision that can be refreshed in, say, 3 years' time versus spending a lot of money and not really being sure when you're going to have to refresh and how much that might cost, it gives you that sort of peace of mind, doesn't it? That you're going to have a working solution that remains quite modern. And I've always thought that we mirror quite closely, or sometimes a little spark will happen in the consumer world, and then we see something similar take off. Our trends really do follow. We're quite consumer led, and quite often the product or the tech has been in our commercial portfolio for a really long time, and then something changes, or one of the consumer brands release a product, it gets adopted in consumer land, and suddenly in pro AV that takes off. And it's interesting timing right now, because look what's happening with Sky Glass. Do you have Sky Glass in?
No, ma'am.
Oh, wow.
Please
So
tell. Please tell for our audience that do not know.
well, my understanding, I might be wrong here, so someone correct me if I've misunderstood the television ads, but Sky is a popular television provider. You get your box, you pay your monthly subscription, whether you want football or Sky Cinema and blockbusters and box sets or so on, and Disney Channel is up to you, and your subscription price moves around because of that. And they have released their own display, and it comes in lots of colors, which is definitely a new thing as well, isn't it? Everything technology is art. So you've got sort of 3 or 4 color choices. You pay monthly and you get one display, and everything else is a streaming service. So with that, you get access to everything that you can bolt onto Sky, which I think is like Netflix you can add in there, and a few others that they're in partnership with. And I believe you could then download additional applications as well, like Prime, etc. So if they've gone down this route, they're recognizing, I think, as well, that everyone's paying us monthly anyway. Wouldn't it be better, like you do with your mobile phone, like many of us do with our cars now, to offer this? And I think that whilst we can say, yes, this has been happening with cars and mobiles for a very long time, mobiles, it's been happening for a very long time. Telecoms, it's been happening for a very long time. So if Sky are going to, take this approach with their tellies, then naturally, I think Pro AV will follow. So 2022 just might be the year of AV as a service. And we really do have an expert in this area. And I think we've got a really good video to tee him up before we go live to Innovation House to speak to him. Cue the video. Very cool. Welcome, Jon Dew-Stanley.
Thank you very much for having me. It's great to join you.
It doesn't feel right that we call him Jon Dew-Stanley. We work in AV. We love our acronyms. So can we cut it down to JDS?
I think that's a good plan. That's a good plan. Most people do.
Cousins of HDMI, JDS is here. Well, actually, you're more related to the Haas than anything else. So thank you, sir. Welcome to the show. And this is your first time, so just some word of advice: strap in, seatbelts are on, keep your hands inside the ride at all times, and you won't get hurt.
Very good. Well, all questions are welcome, and hopefully, I've got some background information that will make it all make sense for those that don't know a lot about Haas yet.
Excellent.
Can we start with the really, really simple one? So what is it for anyone that's joined us today or will watch this on demand and goes, I keep hearing it, I keep nodding along, but what actually is it? And what's different about as a service in our model to, say, leasing?
Yeah, great question. So as a service is the subscription model you've just described with Netflix, with other services that you can subscribe to as a user. And it's really available now on a multitude of different things. We're taking this from a hardware perspective because we call our own program My Hardware as a Service. But hardware is only one portion of the whole story. Actually, to make things viable in a proper OpEx model, you might need some software licensing. You might need some other services to keep your investment or your subscription model going for the duration of time. So, for example, you might have a warranty. You might have a need for technical support. You might wish to have some level of service quality, such as uptime status of devices. You can wrap lots of services and hardware together into an agreement that provides a monthly subscription service as a consumer of that technology. That's the real goal of what hardware as a service is after.
Excellent.
Okay, and how would that relate? Sorry, Chris. How could we translate that for the viewers today? So if I'm buying a car, and I go into the car showroom and I pay in cash and I drive that car away and it's mine, or I'm going to go in and I've secured myself a car loan. And I'll pay the loan company monthly, but I just get the car. Or I go in and I take out a PCP contract, and I'm guessing I get a warranty then from the provider, etc. So can we assume if it was car as a service, I might then be able to get tires and what else do you do to a car? I don't know, some extra bolt-on servicing. Is that the sort of measure of what we're offering here?
Yeah, basically to a degree. So these are all kind of characteristics of leasing. So leasing gets used as a phrase in lots of ways. Very, very simply, a lease is the cost of the item plus a cost for the finance. So if it costs 100 somethings, then it's going to be 100 plus the cost of the finance on top. So it will cost more than your original turning up with cash for that same thing, but you're paying that over a period of time. Now, hardware as a service is designed not to be quite the same. Hardware as a service is an asset, or your item of hardware, which has a residual value in it at the end of the agreed term. So this is going to get into some specifics, but let's just say it's an agreement over 36 months, and that product might have a value of 20% at the end of that agreed term as a fair market value for the asset. So in the example you just gave with a PCP payment, where with your car you are paying maybe a balloon at the end of the agreed term, you're actually topping that up to be the cost of your product plus the cost of the finance. With hardware as a service, it actually works the other way around. So it can save money to the consumer of the device or the product in our case, that may be an AV system, it could be an individual component, it could be lots of different things. But the cost of the hardware, the services and everything are offset by the value of the residual at the end of the agreed term. Yeah. Ultimately, rather than being 100 plus the cost of finance, it's 100 minus the cost of your residual value. So therefore your monthly payments become less. So for businesses or for consumers generally, actually, it's quite an agreeable instance, because over the term of the agreement, you can have your item of hardware, you pay less than as if you've bought it outright. It is owned by another party, a finance provider, but it gives you the opportunity to be able to really control your costs in an ongoing way, particularly when the times are maybe turbulent, like we've all experienced with the situations we've been in for the last couple of years. It's important to control your cash flows, and it's a really important way of doing that.
But you're also adding a level of I guess, security, not the security in another sense, but security in that what you're installing is going to be covered under warranty. It's going to be managed properly. There is a certain comfort level that comes with that. Is that part of the program?
Absolutely. The peace of mind that comes from having something as a hardware as a service where, for example, my hardware as a service has my support built into it. For those that don't know, my support is our next working day advanced replacement product in the event of failure, 24-hour-a-day help desk and other such functionality. So any device that's in our HAS programs comes with that as a default position. So if anything goes wrong with that device when you're paying your monthly subscription for it, rather than when you buy it, you have to rely on sending that product off on a return to base perspective back to a vendor for repair if something went wrong. We would actually just swap that device out. You'd be issued a next day advanced replacement. It gets systems online faster. And certainly in the commercial world, business uptime is critical. You can't afford for your rooms to go offline or your home working agile bundles to stop working. And how do you do your job if you don't have an appropriate system to do it? Correct. So that's where I think there's real value, is not just in the ability to provide hardware for a monthly cost that's at a very sort of aggressive market rate, but the ability with that to also have support and coverage, engineers at the end of a phone 24 hours a day if you needed them to support it optimally, or conversely having a swap out hardware in the event of something going wrong.
Yeah. And this is kind of where my support, my services was born from, wasn't it? So maybe let's just touch on a little bit of the journey that Midwich took in the UK initially to reach this point. So it's traditionally services weren't something that a distributor would typically offer. For a long time in my Midwich career, we've represented certain vendors in territory where they didn't have their own staff based here or based in whichever country we were selling in. And so we would go to site for paid configuration services on occasion and so on, representing that vendor. And in the early days of LED, when it was very new to everybody, PSCO obviously supported the channel with safe installs in that area as well. But the My Services offering was born really out of discovering that warranties sometimes that were offered by the manufacturers simply weren't good enough for the customer. And there were a number of brands in the early days where it made more sense for Midwich to hold our own gold stock and offer a service contract where we would enhance that warranty. Maybe, Jon, can you talk us through the journey after those initial extended warranty offerings, how My Support and My Services have become what they are today and what's on offer today?
Yeah, sure, no problem. So we started the journey, I guess, about 4 years ago, roughly. In the UK, we were just in the one country at the time. We're now, we have My Support globally available. There's a few reasons that this was needed. Some of the customers that were coming forward and looking to, basically an integration company, for example, might want to mitigate the risk of a service contract they're holding for an end user. Could we provision replacement parts within an SLA that can be measured to keep that uptime for the end user as relevant as possible? So we stepped in to hold dedicated stocks for the contracts that we had. And it grew over time from being a handful of products for what was deemed in some minds as mission critical environments to what became actually ubiquitously available from any of the products that we represent. So we have over 500 vendors within the Midwich portfolio, and we're able to offer a support service on that first of all started as advanced replacement parts. We then developed our 24-hour-a-day help desk, And that's really driven from our team. So we have my support engineers available in New Zealand, Australia, Singapore, through Europe and the UK and over into America. And that team collaborate, and we have a follow the sun help desk. So as any inquiry comes in from a customer anywhere in the world, our help desk team can pick that up. And we have local stocks, gold stocks as we call them, but basically replacement products to make sure that if a client has a challenge, we can step in and fix it. And beyond that, we then started to develop some tools that could take the proposition further for certain users that needed that sort of critical uptime or resilience for the event that something goes wrong without necessarily causing them an undue cost. So our assurance program migrated into us developing about 18 months ago our own proactive monitoring system called My Insight. So Insight can monitor all of the IP addressable devices in a client's network. So we can provide our integration partners with a toolbox that basically automates what's going on with that equipment. It can talk to our help desk and advise our engineers to engage when something has gone wrong in real time on site. Most importantly, it can raise tickets on help desks so that it's not people sitting in front of a monitoring tool all the time, it's an automation. If we can correct the fault, we use machine learning in our softwares and we have our own developers on staff, we're able to actually correct issues where it might be a configuration problem, it might be a hardware issue and various other things. So when you start to add these items together, it's a subscription service. So it's based on a monthly cost, very similar to hardware as a service. So there was a natural journey when we started with assurance that brought us into a position that we needed tools to monitor and to be able to white label for our integrator clients to be able to utilize on their own help desks and network operation centers, to then build that to the next level to provide hardware with those services embedded that provided a one-off monthly cost to the user that needed them for ultimately a lower price than they might have just bought the hardware alone for. So it increases the service level agreement, it increases the value that we can bring, both as a distributor for our customers to grow their businesses and ultimately for the end user to make the most of the kit they've got.
Can I just, I'm going to rewind it a little bit here, just because I just want to make sure for the people that have joined in a little later that have missed the first part of this. The conversation here in My Services is a service offering for integrators. So integrators that would like to use the service for their customers. Because I guess the first thing that people are going to ask is what type of customer would use this? Well, this is obviously this is targeted for integrators who are looking to provide this type of service to their customers. Who is the end user customer? Could be universities, could be corporations, it could be anywhere, could be anything, anybody that's playing in that UC space right now. And obviously that is a very, very broad brush. A lot of people are in the UC conversations right now, but you're not just talking about in-room corporate, you're also talking about providing services and equipment to people that are working from home and working remotely and working in places that, this is where the My Services really come into play for the folks that are watching, is that you may not have local support in a remote place, and this will allow you to have that peace of mind. And that's what it is. It's not only enhancing your services by giving you the ability to offer a bigger, more robust package to your end user clients ultimately, but it also allows you to take care of that one person who refuses to go back to the office and would like to work from Bora Bora. So, just want to point that out there. I would like to go there too.
I'd like to work from Bora Bora.
But producer Ben has repeatedly told us that he will not do podcasts working from Bora Bora. So I don't know what he has there.
Let's draw on the question here from Andre. So we know what we want to bundle, but how do we design price bundles that will make sense for the business whilst grabbing the potential customer? Do you know what? We ran into this quite early on. So I guess a big part of it was that we had a leasing offering for quite some time, which was very easy. You spec'd up the project, etc. And once you were fairly confident on the bill of materials, we would take it to our finance team and they would come back and say, this is what we can do. With the as a service movement, we began this journey solely with Zoom, actually, as assisting them with the infrastructure required to get hardware to their customers bundled in with the subscription of their to their platform. And that was easy. You know, the bundles were prescribed as per sort of Zoom's preferred partners, etc. And we learned so early on, which sort of ahead of this channel hardware as a service, which is designed for integrators, that one size cannot fit all. And it's taken us some time, but I believe, Jon, I'm correct in saying that we now really do most of this bespoke. So we come up with our price for as a service very much project by project, customer by customer. That's not to say that we don't win some business with our sort of, you know, package deals, very much like the old style stationery catalogs. Some people like to say that one and that one, please, this size of room. But I mean, as a percentage, Jon, are we over 90% bespoke hardware as a service?
I would say absolutely over 90% bespoke. It's I think often a bundle may be a door opener to a conversation, but what the end user needs is what they will find in a feature or benefit of any particular item of hardware or product or service that they might want to subscribe to. So I really do think that it is important. You know, we need to follow the guidance on flexibility. It's a real integral part to how these platforms work. So everything we're delivering is bespoke. Our dealers, the integration partners, the resellers that are putting forward their proposed systems, we can add in to the financial model. We can wrap a bespoke service contract around that meets the needs of that end user. We can provision that in one country or in multiple countries. So particularly for dealers that have operations in maybe just one country, to expand into other territories is a real flexibility. And this program actually lets them do it.
Yeah. What is nice is that it doesn't necessarily have any labels on it. It's whatever you want to call it as an integrator. It is, it's your service. You call it what you would like to call it. I think the kids call it white labeling, but I don't know.
Overt or covert, I like to consider it. But yes, it can be rebranded.
Yeah, absolutely. We only talk in codes here because that's how cool we are. It's our industry. We have to talk in codes. We have to confuse some people. But anyway.
Well, at this point, we should probably I should probably own up that that we Midwich HQ in the UK is in fact a MyHass customer. So during the lockdown period, we realized very quickly that we were going to need more meeting spaces than we had. Our meeting spaces were long overdue. A sort of standard experience and some modernized equipment. But because of our new hybrid working policy, we were concerned as we have a history of, something's not working or someone's not sure how to use it, I'll just run around the building until I find someone that knows. But with hybrid working, there's a strong chance that all of the people that know might not be there. So we opted also for financial reasons to go for a hardware as a service offering. And we quickly became the very worst customer possible. So we have taken full advantage of the My Insight, which means that our wonderful colleagues check every day on the health of our equipment in the meeting rooms across our DIS office. And we neglected to tell them that we were re-wallpapering the upstairs offices and had yanked off of the wall and removed all of the kit, the meeting room booking panels and various UC devices that were in those spaces. And our poor colleagues were sort of frantically running around trying to figure out what was going on with the left-hand side of the building. And we had to own up and say, we're very sorry, we forgot to tell you that we've done that. So whilst we are the worst customer ourselves, we can convey, you know, it's a great example of how before we even realized that we'd done anything, you know, our colleagues in the My Support team were in touch with us to say, is there anything we need to know because your equipment's not responding today? Which, yeah, great to experience. Not the other way around, but good for us.
We do have a question in the chat that we'd like to get to if JDS has just a few minutes. It's going to be a rapid question, rapid fire. It's a very simple question, but one worth bringing up. And this comes from, Bash does gaming live. I
No?
did not. I was reading that correctly. What happens at the end of the subscription period? Is there any method built in for continuing hardware use and upgrades to more relevant products, or does this introduce a new subscription?
So that's a really great question. And going back to the point about flexibility, what we've needed to build, what we've built, is something that has flexibility at the end of term. So at the end of the term, the subscriber could hand back the equipment. That's the end of the agreement. That's option one. Option two is they might wish to buy the equipment. So they could place a fair market valuation, which is provided by the finance party, to acquire the equipment and the title of it. So that's fine. Option three is that they might resubscribe to a new agreement. So therefore, a technical refresh. It might be over the agreed term, and that might be 24 months or 36 months or longer, as each client might need. There is a new version of hardware that would suit their business needs. So in which case, it's important to scale with the need of the business. And sort of the final option is one where basically we can sorry, I've lost my train of thought. Hand back, we can buy the equipment, we can refresh the equipment. There are three options. So sorry, I was trying to add one more there, but I think they're the main ones.
That's all right. But if anybody has any more questions, JDS, where can people get a hold of you or my services?
Thank you. So very straightforward. My email is jon.dew-stanley@midwich.com if you want to contact me directly. But probably a slightly more catchy email is mysupport@midwich.com. We've got tons of information online. myglobalservices.com is the website to go and take a look at. And the important thing to note is we're an MI, so myglobalservices.com, standing for Midwich Intelligent.
Very good. Thank you so much, sir, for joining us. I hope you have a wonderful day. And man, thank you for the download on the knowledge here, because this can be very confusing, especially when you start going into the finance conversations, because we know gazintas and gazautas, and we don't understand how the numbers work. So thank you so much for putting that in, as simple as terms as possible. I'm still going to have to go through the replay and figure out what some of those finance terms that you've talked
I've been
about.
Googling them whilst we've been here. So, I'm practically an accountant now at the end of the show. Thanks so much for joining us, Jon.
Thanks for having me.
So, Chris, there is a strong chance that this is our last show of the year.
Not ever. Not ever. That is up to you folks. You have to like and subscribe. The more you like and subscribe, we'll be back. So please like and subscribe, tell a friend, tweet it out, share it, do whatever you need to do. Send us, telegrams, if that's even a thing, and fax us.
Carrier pigeon. The reason being, we're heading into holiday season, whatever you celebrate. Most people get to take a break in next month, and it's going to be very difficult for us to get the level of guests that we've been able to secure up until now. I think this is our 9th show, maybe. Obviously, the last show was pretty stressful, but amazing to do live in person from the AV Awards. And we're really conscious of bringing good, relevant, current content. So if we don't find a way to absolutely achieve that, then we won't return in December, and we will see you next year, which will be, I think, for our ISE special is the first planned one. We are starting to work on a show to look at DEI as well. So we will cover the broad topics of diversity, equality, and inclusion next year, with a specific focus on what changes in terms of improving and managing anything in that DEI space for your culture with a hybrid corporate world, which I think is very important. And we've got some great potential guests, particularly to tackle neurodiversity and how much harder it might be to spot any red flags and to help people in a hybrid world. So we're really excited about some of the content we're starting to pull together for next year. But before we move on to the competition and then exit for today, I thought I'd throw out a few confessions
Go for it.
about the show, and maybe Chris, you can have a think if you
Okay.
have any. So this will probably get me into some trouble.
Oh.
But we when we started this this Midwich Live journey, I don't think we knew how it was going to go, and it was very sort of new idea for us. I think for both of us, really, we've often been able to hide behind computer screen. You know, it was full exposure, wasn't it? I was incredibly nervous on the first show. I was right to be, because our guest never showed up because he had internet connection issues.
Yes.
So in my coffee cup on the very first Midwich Live is single malt whiskey. That was my Dutch courage to get us through the show. I have two more. And the second is that I think it was the show where we had D10 join us. My bottom half was actually in pajamas and fluffy slippers, which technically is against Midwich code of conduct for working from home. But yes, I had decided to have a comfy bottom half day. And the final one is that actually in our last show, I think it is, that I did this, I managed to take, in the like pre-recorded interview sections, I managed to take an entire grocery delivery at my front door during the Midwich Live and then get back to my seat. And if you watch it back, you will see me thank the I shout my like thanks to the delivery driver from this room as he carried on delivering, so I could run back here. Any confessions from you, Chris?
So one of the things I don't do is take a swig of my drink while I'm usually on video, but today I've done it, and I guess now it's time to confess. I have a massive collection of coffee cups, but one of my favorite part of that is that I have a bunch of Star Wars cups. And through every one of our calls, I have a different Star Wars mug. I have one of Boba Fett. I have this one from The Mandalorian. I am a nerd through and through, folks. Behind me, and some of the things that you don't see, I have a full working lightsaber. Yes, I am that kind of nerd. And off to my right, next to me is to my left is a sleeping dog, but to my right is a full-size Yoda that keeps me company. And apparently people are asking what kind of single malt you had. And for the people that didn't believe me, Yoda has always been here to give me some wisdom. So yes, I have inspiration, and I have a 3-foot-tall statue standing next to me in the background. And
I feel like your confessions aren't getting you into trouble.
I'm just confessing that I'm a nerd, and it basically is what I'm getting at. I've done shows where I thought that my high-quality production microphone was on, and my speakerphone was on instead. If that happened, I am sorry. But we have to know what was the single malt inside the cup, because people are asking.
Steve asked. Do you know what? I actually think I do know this at the time. It would have been a Bowmore 15-year-old cherry cask. I think it's like a cherry cask one. It's really good if you're looking for one. Yeah, it's a particularly nice one. I only have a couple that I really enjoy. And yes, that was a day that called for it. I think I'd been nervous since 8 a.m.
Stay tuned, folks, because when we do Midwich Live after hours, we will have scotch in our drinks, and we will have our late night talk show where we will bring on guests who will tell us about cool things that they do that they're not allowed to talk during business hours. So look for Midwich Live after hours coming in. I'm kidding. That's not happening. That's not happening. And we do want to have a band at some point to play while I'm kidding. That's not happening either. But we are going to come back in 2022. We're going to do some things and get ready for 2022. It's going to be a different year. Obviously, the last couple of years have been strange, right? 2020, 2021, bizarre. I've had my own issues. I've done this show with a broken foot and in a cast. I've done a lot of strange things, I guess.
And with COVID, I think, Chris, as well.
I had COVID and did the show, and the show must go on. I guess that's the whole point. So we're looking forward to a great 2022. We want your interaction. We want your feedback. You are the reason why we're doing this show. If you do not watch it, if you do not interact with us, if you do not engage with us, then there's no point. because then I'm just talking, Jenny's just talking, we're talking to each other. But when we have you, you make the show for us. So thank you so much for sitting through 8 episodes of Midwich Live. We want to do more. We would love to be able to take it on the road. That's up to you folks if you'd like to see that. Again, going back to what we did at Innovation House, that is your place, not ours, right? You are more than welcome to take advantage of everything that Innovation House has to give. Get in touch with the team there. They were more than happy to show you that. I can't wait to see some of the international folks who are going to trek over in June in 2022. If that is allowed, I would love to see a lot of people at Infocom. I do admit,
Pray for Vegas. Pray for
Vegas is
Vegas.
always. Vegas
Speaking
has
of
been healing.
which, I think that actually Barcelona is the topic of question for our competition this week. So potentially, guys, the last competition of the year from Midwich Live. Your opportunity to win a £100 or $100 or equivalent currency
You can buy
voucher
yourself a
for
Norfolk. You can buy yourself a Norfolk Black. I
a
learned
Norfolk. Yes,
turkeys
I
are
ordered
a
my
thing.
Christmas turkey today, and we've decided to splash out, as there's been lots of things that we haven't been able to spend on this year. We're going for the reportedly best available turkey in the UK, and it comes with a hefty price tag. So I will report back in January as to whether or not this turkey was worth the money. But if you would like one, I don't think Amazon sell turkeys yet.
You never know. Maybe inflatable turkeys.
But you could perhaps use the £100, £100, €100 Amazon voucher to do that. And the question is,
what date does ISE 2020 start? And that is in Barcelona. Go, folks. Go Google it. Go search it. Go do what you got to do.
Is that the first day of the show or the first day of the conferences? I think it needs to be the first day of the show. So show floor opens.
Show floor open.
Because obviously a lot of us go out early for pre-conferences and so on. So the first day of the show floor being open, enter at midwich.com /MLComp7 to enter that competition. And I think we won't make you wait until next year. So we'll definitely let you know if you are the winner on the social channels before then.
I do have some requests, though, that kind of came in, and I completely forgot to ask people for it. You know I love the social engagement, but there's a couple things that I do want to see. If you can please, folks, as a favor for me, to cheer me up, because the way things go around this time of year is you have people that are really happy. It's, my God, it's the end of the year. Some people are not so happy, but you know what I do on social. If you guys tag me or do something, I will go ahead and retweet it and make a big deal about it. The couple things I love to see every year at this time of year. One, if you are wearing an ugly Christmas sweater or an ugly Christmas jumper, please tag us and use Midwich Live. I absolutely love seeing your horrible sweaters. The funnier, the more disgusting, the better, because I find it so ironic that it's this time of year and people are, with, deer that are run over on their sweatshirts. It's hysterical. The other thing I like to see, which I have lived through myself, is I love to see what you guys do with your elf on a shelf. If anybody can do an elf on a shelf that's related to AV, right? Put the scenario of an elf on a shelf stealing some RJ45 cables or wrapped up in some HDMIs. I would absolutely love to see that. So there is your homework assignment for the remainder of the year. I want to see some ugly Christmas sweaters tagged out there with Midwich Live, and I want to see your best elf on the shelf disasters if possible. Please keep it PG to an extent, and let's get those pictures going, because I find them hysterical. That's always a booster. To finish the year would feel good. Nothing like watching a doll, drinking out of a dad's mug, which wasn't really coffee. That matter. Anyway, so let's wrap up this episode of Midwich Live. I'm first. I guess I'll go first. My name's Chris Neto. I'm the market development manager at Starin. I'm over on the U.S. If you haven't told yet by my funky accent, that's where I reside, and I do things here. I do a lot of fun things, but more importantly, I'm part of a great team at Starin, and we will be doing one last town hall where I have to entertain our CEO and drive some conversations out of him. It's good because I get to ask Bobby some questions, and we put him on the confessional. So we ask him about what happened in 2021, and then we start previewing what possibly could be coming in 2022. So a lot of big announcements coming on the Snaren front, and we're looking forward to a positive and great 2022. My name's Chris. You can find me on the Twitters under Chris_Neto, and you can find me on LinkedIn. Jenny, take it
Same for
home.
me. So search for me, Jenny Hicks, on LinkedIn, or at Midwich Jenny on Twitter, jenny.hicks at midwich.com for email. And as I span across the group, if you are based outside of the UK and outside of the US, please feel free to contact me, and I'll put you in touch with your relevant Midwich company and colleagues. Thanks so much, everyone, for joining. We might see you in December, but I think it's probably not too likely. So a big thank you to everyone who has joined us on all of our shows. We've had a blast doing this, and we're really looking forward to next year and getting into planning to bring you some good content for next year. So thanks so much, and have a great break, everyone.